Hello, everyone at Pros and Babes, our professionals with babies. My name is Kenya Romanovska. Welcome to our weekly live show where we help moms in corporate careers in STEM fields and male-dominated and competitive fields redefine their identity after having kids, create a work plan and a career plan that suits them, right? Help you improve your relationship with your spouse so that you can be on the same team. And most importantly, surround you with a community of other moms like you so you never feel with the crushing overwhelm of trying to figure out this whole family and work-life integration business on your own. Welcome to our weekly live show. Again, my name is Kenya Romanovska. I'm a mom of two boys, and today we're talking about one of my all-time favorite topics, that lean in, right? So I'm sure that most people watching this show or listening to us have read the book Lean In by Cheryl Sandberg. And I'm wondering if you've read that, then perhaps you're familiar with the debate that she's had with Anne-Marie Slaughter, who wrote an article titled Why Women Can't Have It All. So before I dive right in, I'd like you to take a piece of paper and make a commitment to yourself that you're not just going to listen to what I'm going to talk about today, but you're going to take action, right? And when you write things on paper, it pushes your brain to believe that you're already taking action on that. So that's the first step. Even if you're doing that, you can perhaps post a picture in the comments later on of what your action steps are. Because guess what? I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to empower you to know what you want, right? To empower you to listen to that voice, because when we're stretched in all the directions of having a life with a career, with kids, and pleasing others, we often disconnect with the power of us. So obviously I'll give you a framework, but then your job is to write down and define what it means for you to lean in, what kind of steps you have to take, and to trust your intuition along the way, because that's where your biggest power comes from. We're not here in this group to please everyone. We're already taking care of everybody else's needs, right? Our kids, our spouses, our families. This is you time today. So to go back to why this topic is so near and dear to my heart, when I started Pros and Babes almost 4 years ago, we got to meet in person. It was a special moms group that was curriculum driven and focused on creating a back to work plan. And I started experimenting with different resources for women. And of course, one of them was the book Lean In by Cheryl Sandberg. And her opponent, let's say verbal opponent, is an Anne-Marie Slaughter. They had tons of debates in the media because Cheryl Sandberg in her book was criticized for putting the onus on women to figure things out, right? And not pointing out that there are some structural problems in society when it comes to supporting women, and school hours not aligning with work, and just the reality being really challenging. So that's where she got criticized. And where Cheryl Sandberg talks about leaning in, she says that women have a tendency to leave before they leave, right? And as soon as they think of having kids, they stop kind of being invested in their careers and they take a step back. So she encourages women to press the gas pedal. And I had my own lean in moment a couple of years ago during my first pregnancy. I was about 3 months pregnant and I got an offer for promotion. And I was debating whether I would tell my new potential boss about my pregnancy. I was just on the cusp, so not quite ready to make the announcement. But Cheryl Sandberg was in my head and I was like, well, I have to lean in. And obviously my critical thinking wasn't as developed back then. So I kind of followed the protocol without really reflecting more deeply philosophically about what my position was on it, but that's just the natural course of things. So I ended up disclosing my pregnancy and also talking about asking tons of questions about how they treated women with children and what the situation would look like at the office, right? So I leveraged that discourse, and I'm sure many of you have had lean in moments. So please tell me, if you're listening to us, please say hello in the comments. Let me know if you've read the book Lean In, if it has had an impact on your career, why or why not. So, and going back to the moms group that I founded at Pros and Babes, we've had some of the most interesting discussions about Lean In. And then Anne-Marie Slaughter's Why Women Can't Have It All. And she was a top advisor at the White House. She had one of the highest positions in the White House, a very supportive husband. And she came to the conclusion that even if you have the most supportive husband who takes care of the kids, women can't have it all. But I'll let you read the book. There's also an audiobook. So one of the things that we did with that group of moms is really help women think, well, has the lean in current impacted your life? Because it's been a significant force shaping women's career decisions, right? And it's one way to do it, and there's not one right way to do it. It's easy to tell women to lean in. What if you're the only woman in the room? What if you're in a really sexist environment? I've heard stories in a thread in our Facebook group about how women are treated, and comments about pregnancy and very, very rude remarks. So leaning in a very hostile environment isn't always easy and perhaps even desirable. So here's the number one action I would like you to take. First of all, decide what lean in means for you, and then why you want to lean in, right? What would it mean for your career to quote unquote lean in versus lean out with your kids? Like, detach any positive or negative connotation, but first you have to write that down. What does that mean to lean in for you? Does that mean pushing yourself to apply for a promotion just for the practice of it? Does it mean networking with more people and having more conversations? Does it mean honing your personal brand? Like, what is the intention behind the lean in? What does that mean for you? Why is it important? And what are the benefits to you and your family, right? So first, don't take it as a default that that's the thing you need to do. Reflect on your bigger picture. That's the number one step, okay? What does lean in mean to you? Now, when we're talking about confidence, so confidence comes from execution. It also comes from the sense of knowing that you are doing your life's work. There's a magnetism that comes from being connected to your life's mission. So whenever women come into the MomBA program, that's a 12-month program where we go over every single aspect of your life to build your life strategy. We look at those areas of your life, all of them, and we design a 25-year vision in a very quick, intuitive process that allows you to connect with your heart. And so once you are living from a place of where you have a vision and how your career fits with all of the other pieces of your life, and the type of impact you want to make on your children, on your community, on society, there's a sense of confidence that comes from that. You become more masterful. You are in a position you can start making choices. It's not just others interviewing you. You are interviewing them to see if they're a good fit for your own vision. And there's such a powerful quote that came my way in the last few months. It said, build your own dreams because otherwise somebody will hire you to build theirs. So whether you're working for a company that you're really aligned with, or whether you decide to be an entrepreneur at some point, you're building somebody's dream, whether it's yours or theirs, right? And so if you want to be confident, you have to start having a vision for your own life. And it doesn't have to be complicated. There are so many ways to build a life vision that you want to lean into confidently. It could be specific career achievements. It could be choosing to be guided by certain core feelings, right? So let's say you'll decide, and that's something I'm experimenting with this year, is that I will make decisions with activities that will give me joy. That's one way to have a vision for your life. It doesn't matter what kind of job title you have, who you're impressing, how much money you're making, but just the energy of joy creates opportunity and magnetism and people wanting to have you in their circles. Right? So many ways to create a life vision. It could be deciding to live a life driven by values. Again, that's another step we do in our MomBA programs. We reflect on core values for yourself and your family. And you decide that every day you're going to measure success by how aligned you are with your values. And it's interesting, one of the first pillars of what we do in this community is help you redefine your identity as a working mom. So many people gloss over the identity part and the values part. And that is the crux of what drives you every single day. Every single person changes with motherhood. We do change. We now have a new life in our hands. We have new sets of responsibilities. We prioritize things differently. So there is immense value in identifying what those values are and asking yourself, am I living in alignment with your values? There's a nugget of information I've shared in many of my trainings was that there's one thing that you absolutely must not outsource, right? We sometimes need to outsource a lot of things as mothers, childcare, cleaning, food prep, if our career is very demanding and if we have the privilege to do that, obviously. But I say never outsource your values. And so as we go through the personal development journey, there are different pieces. We examine the past, we're obviously in the present, and then we have the choice to create the future. So most of us generally have to make peace with the past and the patterns that we've been given and the values that have been instilled in us, right? What our parents taught us, what school taught us, what society and the job market and our institutions taught us. And so if you're not consciously reflecting on what your values are, you're likely playing out somebody else's rule book. So when we're talking about leaning in with confidence and playing big, it does start with you and knowing who you are and what value you bring in this world. And once you make a conscious decision for the different seasons and chapters of your life of what leaning in actually means for you, perhaps you're leaning into one of your biggest investments, which is your children's education, and you decided you want to focus more on them. That doesn't make you less committed to your professional aspirations if you're doing that, with consciousness and with a joyful heart, that's your choice. Right? So to recap, the exercises that I'm inviting you to do, first of all, is define what leaning in means for you. Then have the confidence to step into your vision of leaning in and define how your career fits with the different pieces of your life. I see life as an adventure. And whatever we're going through, I've had some pretty poor experiences in my career in terms of management. I had some amazing successes, winning awards as an investigative journalist, winning awards as an entrepreneur, doing some consulting, but I've also experienced difficult things. And in retrospect, whatever felt like a challenge was simply a growth opportunity in disguise. So wherever you are right now in your career, whether it's the only female engineer in the room, whether it's crying in the bathroom stall because your pregnancy and your career interaction is not going the way you want it, whether it's tensions with your spouse around whose career comes first, right? All of that, in my opinion and in my vision of life, are just growth opportunities disguised and an opportunity for you to become that next version of yourself, to lean into that next version of yourself. Now, when you want to lean in confidently, obviously it's helpful to have a community of support. So I encourage you to lean in on the Pros and Babes community to ask questions, define what that looks like for you, share your vulnerability. We're a positive community where we want to support you, help you find your inner wisdom, and also give you examples of how people have overcome challenges. I'll tell you a bit more about my own lean in stories and some of the tools that I've been using in my journey leaning into my biggest passions, right? So I love the world of education, personal development. I love supporting mothers. I love the world of coaching, facilitation, mentorship. And one of the big steps in terms of playing bigger and leaning in was unhooking from praise and criticism and stopping to wait for my Oscar. Praise and criticism, many of us brainy women who use our big, beautiful brains to solve problems, we seek external validation on whether we did a good job or a bad job, which is natural. I mean, obviously you want to deliver results to a client, deliver results to a boss, truly provide value, right? And have it measured in objective terms. If you're an entrepreneur, I mean, somebody paying you for your services is a validation of your services, right? And kind of the market value of your services. But changing your relationship to praise and criticism, if you're going to embrace that value of yours, your values, your vision, of course, there are going to be people who disagree with you. And in fact, I read that women tend to be exposed to more criticism when we decide to play bigger, when we decide to voice our opinion. So changing our relationship to that and starting to use it as data, not as a reflection of your inner worth, can flip the game for you. It has for me in a big, big, big way. So I'll let you sit with that one, unhooking from praise and criticism. I'm seeing a comment from somebody. So somebody wrote, I read Lean In before motherhood. I feel it would be enlightening to read it again post-motherhood. I sometimes contrast the advice and lean in with a mama rising when I make plans for the future. Curious, I'd have to look into a mama rising. And yes, Cheryl Sandberg also wrote Plan B. So thank you for that comment. I'll be checking who wrote that after our show. I'd also like to revisit Lean In and see what it would look like for me as a mom now with 2 kids, because I read it years and years ago. So I talked about unhooking from praise and criticism, and then not waiting for your Oscar. So when I was growing up in high school, I was the A+ student. I excelled at everything. I was involved in community. I won tons of leadership awards, and it really disproportionately shaped my sense of how I was seeing my worth in the world. Right? So I expected awards, they came to me, and it was amazing to get them, but ultimately it didn't fuel my, in the beginning, I really had an inner drive to do good in the world. And once that was constantly reinforced with rewards, it was nice to get that validation, but it tipped the scale in the too much rewards and praise and relying too much on that, right? And so connecting with that vision I have, and I've been reflecting on that one. For those of you who have been hanging out with me for some time, I bring up there have been a lot of losses in my family in the last year, truly, and many family members that I've lost, and it's reinforced my calling to do the work that I do. And a lot of it relies on empowering women in STEM to understand their vision and their values, because I hope that you will provide solutions for some of the world's biggest problems from a fresh, feminine, empowered perspective. Of course, not only women in STEM, a lot of women who may feel that they're shrinking and when they become mothers, right? That they don't have the space to do what they need to do to thrive, that they're feeling overwhelmed all the time. Seeing clarity on what you have to offer in the world, seeing your life as different seasons and chapters can be so helpful. So the more I do this work, the more I see the impact women getting raises and promotions and improving the relationships with their husbands and feeling more confident as parents and embracing their vision. That is a very powerful calling for me. And through the ups and downs, I embrace it more and more. Right? I embrace it more and more. I learn, I grow every single time. So again, I'll do a recap. I love repeating things, but first of all, you need your own definition of what leaning in means for you and why and how it resonates with you. You need to have that critical reflection. There are tons of people who are going to tell you how you can be doing career. You can listen to tons of podcasts. You can listen to my live show. Everything I do has a layer of reflecting on how does that align with your vision, your values, how you want to feel, why you have the goals you have. Is it just out of the habit of performing and getting things done on your checklist? Or is it in alignment with what you deeply desire to impact in the world? So no matter what kind of information I bring here, I always want you to examine it from a critical lens, see what it means for you. If you disagree with it, that's awesome, right? And think about why. And then make a commitment to putting it on a paper and keeping it visible. That's one of my big hacks as a mom. A powerful tool for moms is you can do a lot of professional development and focus on you by having visual reminders of what matters to you. So all my clients have their vision boards and their values board printed, right? And so even if they're busy, they're running around, they constantly have a visual anchor to work on. So if you're joining us in this live show episode today, and I know some of you expressed interest, please do yourself a favor, write a couple of things down on a paper. Don't let this knowledge just fritter away for you. Have a visual anchor of what it means for you to lean in. Commit to creating a vision for your life. And then you can use some tactical elements that I mentioned today, which are unhooking from praise and criticism, right? And not waiting for your Oscar, finding actually your own driver inside and your own connection to your vision and your impact in the world and what big problems you're meant to solve. You can nurture your relationship with your inner mentor. We're so used to seeking external advice and validation for what is a good solution to a problem, but it's also very important to balance that with the inner mentor that you have inside, and so that there are visualizations to do that, right? So seeking different types of mentorship, inner mentorship, external mentorship, wisdom circles like this one. I hope today's reflection on leaning in confidently will inspire you to define what it means for you. Seek confidence through the attachment to your own vision for what a successful life is. And there are truly many ways to define it. You have to embrace imperfect action. It took me years to find the tools that resonate with me. Success is really defined through so many different areas, whether it's career success, whether it's alignment with values, whether it's your connection with God, right, or your spirituality, whether it's discovering your purpose on this earth. There are so many ways, but commit to finding it, commit to exploring it. And finally, the different tactics and tools that you can practice, and the different mindset shifts. I had quite a bit of fun asking people what a perfect day was for you, and I saw the answer saying, well, perfection doesn't exist. Of course it doesn't, and in pure terms. I mean, we can have a philosophical debate, but for you, the exercise is meant to help you reconnect with what you want. And so if I gave you a piece of paper and I told you that you could fill the next day with whatever you desire, right? Would you go to the spa? Would you spend a day in nature? Would you spend a day in silence? Or is your perfect day being able to respond to stress with calm and joy? So it's all about connecting with your desires, creating your life, healing your past, and designing your future and your present. So thank you so much. As you may see, this show has switched to Wednesdays. We're going to be going live with you on Wednesdays. I think next week I have a very special guest, and then we will be launching a podcast this fall. So I can't wait to share that with you. You're seeing some promo notes in the script. If you're enjoying this show, if you think that the world will be a better place when there are more moms in power, please invite them to this group. Please share this show. Please let us know you're watching a replay in the comments, and tell us what is your own definition of lean in, and what kind of action you're taking after today's show to lean into your vision with confidence.